Hello. So it's me, Jake, and if you're getting this video, it's because we know each other personally. Um, Most of the people who will get this video I consider to be friends. Other people, sort of peers, acquaintances, folks who I've met here in Syracuse over the past few months, maybe the past few years since I've been back. And why? Why am I putting this together? I guess this is probably an effort on my behalf to use this type of media where I can speak directly rather than typing words and photoshopping and all that crazy stuff to try to get a message through. So there's no rehearsal here. I'm just going to kind of shoot from the hip a little bit, and hopefully it lands on some kind ears, and that the result of this will hopefully get some things a little bit unstuck. So the long and short of it is, a lot of people know me as somebody who's been sort of a social entrepreneur most of his life. I don't come from money. I have never really had it as an adult. As a matter of fact, I've lived and worked most of my adult years living under the poverty line, under $10,000 a year gross income. So part of that is because of circumstance. Part of that is because of the types of projects I take on are driven by my passion, by my dreams, by my visions, by my care for the world and the people around me and the environment around me. So a lot of times there is not a paycheck necessarily attached to that. Essentially, I work primarily to make a difference in the community I live in, to make a difference in the world that I live in. And I try to make ends meet somewhere in between. I take on consulting gigs. Occasionally, things I do get grants, are sponsored by partners, and or are income earning. So sometimes there is some money flowing around. The video that I'm sharing with you today isn't necessarily about me and my personal needs for resources or anything like that. I have learned to live a comfortable life, a happy life, as a simple life. And yet, at the same time, there are certain things that we cannot, sort of achieve through barter, trade, goodwill. We got to put gas in our car. We got to put money in the hands of our landlords, and the basic needs that we have to go through, the grocery store, things like that. It's really hard to live an existence of sort of the gift economy or what have you. And so the fraction of expenses that I need to cover in my personal life has been minimized greatly, so that way I could try to cover it through art sales and weekend warrior projects and the little bit of income I do earn doing what I do. That said, the projects I take on, however, do need resources. It's really hard if you've been involved in a startup, whether it's a not-for-profit, whether it's a small business, even an alliance, bringing different groups together, organizations together, individuals together around a common goal, a shared mission. So there's only so much your energy, your passion, your drive, your partnerships, your networks can take a project without real capital. So in the past 20 years, I've launched 501c3s that have been successful in getting community support, grants, stipends. I've helped to bring together alliances around different topics that have proven to be beneficial for the community that they're working in. And I've also, worked to start some small business enterprises or ventures that are typically more or less on the side of environmentalism, social justice, arts, culture, things of that nature. I don't start businesses to make money. And if you know me, that's evident. This is the truth. So what I'm trying to get across here is that, I often struggle walking that line between my extremely modest existence, my ability to get by on a simple diet, going through what I've gone through, and this video isn't about that, but I came back to Syracuse a couple years ago, and I was homeless. I was squatting in a vacant building. I didn't have heat. I was living off peanut butter jelly sandwiches, occasional pot of rice, and that's okay because I've been there before, and it's a choice I made. 3 years later, I'm, in a wonderful relationship. I've met the love of my life. I have a great house. My animals are with me. Um, and for the past year and a half, I've been one of the main proprietors of Spark Contemporary Art Space, which here in Syracuse has been around for 20 years. And, oddly, I was an undergrad at SU in VPA when Spark started, and I knew the founders of it. I wouldn't say they're good friends of mine per se. They were grad students, but we're definitely acquaintances. And, loved coming here for events, knew most of the artists in its earlier days doing shows here. And, as many of you know, at the very same time, myself and a number of people launched an organization called THINK, the Institution of Banal Culture, which, ran for 6 years, from 2000 to 2006. And, we did a lot of more of the nomadic work. As Spark was a facility here for 20 years, we took our programming all over the city. So we were doing pop-up art galleries, we were doing fashion shows and film screenings and open mics and live music and nightlife and entertainment. We had live work artist studios. Even getting involved in sort of politics to some degree, having a voice in the community, co-launching 40 Below, things like that, getting involved in the Cultural District Commission, which is now the Public Arts Committee, and doing public art here in Syracuse. And, I love this community. I'm passionate about this community. I've lived here for 16 years of my adult life by choice, and I come back. Every time I leave, I come back. Syracuse is my home. I have family here. I have friends here. And, without getting into too much voodoo, I feel energetically deeply connected and rooted to this place and the people here. So a lot of what I get involved in is really about trying to move this community forward. The challenge is I don't have resources. When you don't have resources, your voice and your oomph, the energy you put out there, the things that you can spark can only go so far if they're not funded. So, a lot of the things that I have gotten off the ground have either taken on a life of their own because they found funding, and another group took it and ran with it, which is fine. And other times I've had projects stall, or, just sort of, the people involved in it get burnt out, just because there's only so much you can do creating something from nothing. So, I'm sort of on the edge here, and I find myself sort of living on this interesting line where I often have opportunity right at the reach of a fingertip. I do a lot of hard work. I do a lot of due diligence. I do a lot of networking. I tap into my intuition. I trust in my visions. And so I'm able to, sort of put the pieces together a lot of times to make something happen or come into life. And in this instance with Spark, just sort of actually be a stopgap where it potentially was going to be closing its doors a couple of years ago. And myself and another partner who is no longer with me, he's moved on to another job, has been involved. So, interesting banging noises. I guess what I'm trying to convey here in the short amount of time I have left in a video that I can share personally with people is that, with Spark in particular, the neighborhood has changed so much. The rent has gone up, and of course, 20 years later, the original people who were passionate about it, was their dream, their vision. They're no longer around. They're elsewhere. They are successful, I'm assuming, artists in their own rights in whatever community they live in. And the legacy that they left behind, has sort of taken on a life of its own. And so we're at a point now where, we sort of have to tweak how Spark functions in order to keep its doors open and continue to serve this community. So that said, I've made some personal investments here to open a movement studio, a yoga studio, and meditation studio, to bring in a multimedia center with books, records, magazines, and local media. And then we've also converted our showroom into more of a multifaceted mixed-use facility for live music, open mics, poetry nights, those types of performance elements, as well as your more traditional white wall art gallery and critiques and things like that. And then we've built out a lounge and cafe. So we have an area for people to come and spend time at Spark, be here just working in their sketchbook, having a cup of coffee. If they're here for a show or an event, we can now cater those functions rather than having it be outsourced. So we can churn some revenue here in this facility to pay its bills, hopefully pay a couple staff people to run it. And, those investments have been made. So, we're at a point now at the first of the month in January 2019 that we're switching our programming over to a membership-based model where the people that do programming here, have events here, do shows here, produce nightlife and things like that are a part of a membership group. So we can all kind of network and work together, share calendar duties, and also incentivize other artists to be members as patrons so they get discounts and benefits to membership. However, on the ownership side, the expectation isn't that local artists are going to become the ownership group. There is an opportunity for the members to own a percent ownership. So that way, they could have a vested interest in the facility that they're helping to make magnificent and exciting and hopefully pack the house as it has for 20 years. And, so the ownership group really, not to say it's a silent group. The aim would be we'd meet quarterly. We would look at big ticket items. We'd look at the budget. We'd look at the work plan. If there are any major expenditures or opportunities that we need to look at and cast a vote as owners, we would do so. But the day-to-day operations of the cafe, the lounge, the showroom, the movement room would all be by the membership itself as the de facto employee base and those running the day-to-day operations. So what I'm seeking right now is to open up ownership. I currently own 100% of Spark. And I would like to offer 90% of the value of this business, all of the cafe equipment, the sound system, the stage, the lease that we have here, the proximity to this neighborhood really kind of being on the up and up. We have thousands of new student housing within walking distance. Strong Hearts is moving into the neighborhood. Mellow Velo is right around the corner. Commercial Art Supply is next door, so it's becoming a neighborhood, as a matter of fact. So in a couple months, this will be a busy district where in years past it really hadn't been. So we think that there's great opportunity here. Again, this isn't really necessarily about a investment to make dollars, to make a lot of money. There is a plan for return on your investment. But really, this is about, kind of reinventing Spark and keeping it here for another 20 years to be an asset for this community and to continue to do the great work it's done and even expand upon that. And, I think with the cafe element and the opportunity to vend locally produced foods and beverages as another element of sort of cultural display and exhibition is our local food vendors and culinary experts, and being able to bring some of their product into Spark for tastings and for even just daily consumption. That if we got a small membership group together to run the place, it would be a tremendous success. And if we got a small ownership group together to invest in the space, that would provide the foundation for which everything else can stand. So I'm sending you this video because I've identified you as somebody who I would love to have as an investor owner, a co-owner with me of Spark Contemporary Art Space. So I don't know. My contact. It's sort of immediate. I've personally run out of my own capital. I've put as much sweat equity and investment into the space that I can. And, we've got to turn the corner. And I've got an ownership roundtable coming up on January 13th from 3 to 5. It's on a Sunday. And I have a membership roundtable the following Sunday on the 20th. So if you'd like to learn more, please, give me a buzz, drop me a message. If you know somebody in the community who would like to learn more about investing in Spark, let's make it happen. Take care.